Welcome again to the Unlearning podcast. I am Stuart Delony, and joining me as always is Karl Forehand and JD Forehand. And JD, what is that, a camel?
It's a camel.
What is that? It is a camel, okay. You got a camel on your back, or shoulder.
My shoulder, chip on my back or something, yeah. But I think my coworker brought that back from Kazakhstan, I believe. No, sorry, Turkmenistan. My apologies.
Turkmenistan.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, though.
It is cool.
It's made from
I don't have any Turkmenistan jokes. It's made from what? People's hair?
No, camel. I hope not people's hair. I think camel's hair. It definitely wasn't made from my hair. That's for sure. But
okay. Yes, as we're off and running here. So if anybody wants to reach out to us, ask us questions, call us heretics, say whatever you want to us, you can reach us at theunlearningcurvepodcast@gmail.com. And starting us off today, we've got a segment in the news, and we're going to be talking about, what are we talking about, Karl? The new evangelicals being like the old evangelicals?
Yeah, obviously, right. So the ongoing saga of Tim Whitaker, the new evangelicals, that involves Tony Jones, and now it involves Laura Anderson, the trauma specialist, who did some shady things. So that whole Deadly Faith did a good job. The podcast Deadly Faith did a good job of doing a 2.5-hour thing on that covers every single detail that, all of us have reported on and done some episodes on, and as it's progressed. But the new wrinkle is that they have hired the victims, the RV and the witness one that testified for the Grace Report about the new evangelicals and Tim Whitaker, are seeking some reparations, if I'm saying the right word. So the new evangelicals supposedly hired a lawyer that would help negotiate this, but the new wrinkle is that lawyer is now ghosting the victim survivors. So I wrote a letter to the T&E board. I was going to read that, but I really don't want to right now, because I don't want to destroy them. I want them to start doing the work. Tim Whitaker has been avoiding it. Tony Jones never would address it or really talk to us. He volunteered to come on the Desert Sanctuary, but he was going to bring his kids, and it's just all gross, and I didn't want to do it. But no one seems to be wanting to address the issues, that they're just kind of creating environments that are the same as before. They want to create not the new evangelicals that are just operating the same way. And it's mainly because of the leader, Tim, who has kind of been demoted from Lord God Almighty in the new evangelical, or whatever the title was. Now he's just the podcast guy, but still not changing, not apologizing, not doing things right. And then this thing with Laura Anderson now is the same way, and nobody's really taking responsibility. So I assume that wrinkle is just going to keep being there, because no one's really, like we say a lot of times, willing to do the hard work. So I want them to do the hard work. I want them to get some counseling, and stop for a minute. And that's true of all of us, like us ex-pastors that want to start a new group, and just need to slow down and quit trying to build big, huge numbers, and do the hard work of getting better first. And maybe share that journey with us, not just owning the conservatives, like the conservatives want to own the libs, and the evangelicals want to own the progressives, and the progressives want to own the conservatives. So
I guess slavery's in the Bible, right? There's a lot of owning people going on here.
It's true.
So let me run through this.
I always said the people that own people were probably the same kind of people that owned people. Anyway, you're going to say something. Go, Stuart.
No. I wanted to, for folks that may not know what you're talking about fully, that may not be immersed in this situation, I'll give an elevator speech version of it, and you tell me what I'm leaving out, because you're way more versed in the situation than I am. So we have the new evangelicals, what are they, social media platform, voice out there in the world, podcasting, all of that stuff. Tim Whitaker, in charge of it for a time period, gets accused of having anger issues and being manipulative and abusive in his role. The victims end up getting them to hire a independent counsel to be able to look at the situation. Turns out the independent counsel was kind of in cahoots with Tim Whitaker. And now we're at the other end of this, where they are just kind of trying to brush it away, move on, act like nothing happened. Much similar to what you're saying is Tony Jones back in the day was again an abusive leader that wanted to brush away the fact that he was abusive to his wife and move on, get back into the platform. Is this nutshell-ish? I just wanted to, for those that don't know all the details.
It's good. It's just a long saga. It started 2 years ago with the Theology Beer Camp. People were upset that Tony Jones was being platformed. He said, I didn't do anything, but he did push his wife. But that wasn't even the issue. The issue was that when somebody questioned his blog post, he just unleashed hell on people like David Hayward, who I don't know anybody that has anything bad to say about David Hayward. What a gem, golden kind of guy, and it's just all that. They're just, because they're popular, they're claiming the right to treat people however they want. And it continues on with Laura Anderson, who's connected with New Evangelicals and did a lot of shady things there. So, they try to discredit people that are working in the shadows to keep receipts and keep reporting on stuff like this. They want to demonize them and say they're keyboard warriors, not doing anything except tearing us down. And that's kind of the attitude they take, and they borrowed that from evangelicals, right? So, but man, why would we keep all that information just to destroy them? I don't want to be a celebrity. I've never wanted that. I also want people to get better, and I want people to do the right thing and act responsibly and take that 120,000 or however much you're pulling in now in the New Evangelicals and do some good with it, and get yourself some counseling so you don't mistreat people and ignore victims and survivors. Just get better.
This seems to be a problem that we have in culture overall, too, to where we have abusers continue to stay in their positions of power, where they discredit everybody else around them. They may end up making weird, lewd birthday cards and signing their name to where it looks like pubic hair. I mean, just for random examples. But I mean, we continue to have these people that are in abusive situations continuing just to do it. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating that it's in the church. It's frustrating when it's outside the church, but it grieves us more, I think, when it comes from people that are doing it for Jesus. And it just makes it more of a grift, and it kind of makes it even harder to really believe what these folks are selling and saying, because it's just lip service is kind of how it feels. Lip service. And
we should move on, right? Go ahead, JD.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that's what it usually is. I think Stuart encapsulated my thoughts pretty succinctly.
I aim to do that. That's my goal in life too.
Makes my job.
Well, moving on from the news, we also have been doing this kind of series of sorts where these are Karl's assumptions, areas where Karl is making an ass out of you and me with these. And so we've done 2 previous ones challenging Karl's assumptions. And this one is going to be discipline is teaching.
Yeah, so I apologize today that I'm going to do a lot of reading, but I'll try to read fast and pick my voice up a little bit, and everyone so that we can get through.
Set phasers to 2 times mode.
Yeah, at least 1.5 maybe, speed or something like that. So it's common for us to associate discipline with punishment. For some, that means spanking or beating or other severe forms of what is now considered abuse. I know that some claim they are okay even after experiencing these practices. However, I have yet to see any credible evidence that disproves my belief that they did little more than gain immediate control and sometimes cause long-term harm to the recipient. So I
have a lot of long-term metadata study that backs you up on that point.
There's a lot of science behind
and
this
a lot that says spanking is really bad for you.
Yeah, I always said the people that say I got beat and I turned out okay are never the poster child for okay. In my opinion, that most people that say that have some problems, and as do we all. But as a pastor, I witnessed adults still carrying their trauma and repeating cycles of cruelty. I had a guy in my church, my first church, that you couldn't walk up behind him because he was that jittery. And he said, sometimes I can just feel the beatings. It still plagued him at 50-something years old. So from their holy books, they gained the authority to promote violent and aggressive practices, hoping these would somehow lead to compliance and obedience. And although these practices might have resulted in immediate submission, we can see their lasting negative impact and understand the need for a better approach. So we've talked a lot about behaviorism on some of the episodes, but misplaced aggression is often linked to our religion and holy books as we picture a retributive God. So I thought it might be helpful to examine one of the latest parts of the New Testament in the Bible and see what is meant by discipline. By understanding the language used in part of the Christian holy books, and I hardly ever do this, go back to Scripture and let's talk about the Greek words and stuff like that. By looking at this, we might get a better grasp of the concept of discipline. So what does discipline mean? Hebrews chapter 12, I think, is probably the one I hear the most. It talks about discipline as a form of love. If you love them, you discipline them, right? Everybody remembers that passage that we talk about a lot. But in that chapter, the word used most often, it's many times used throughout there, is paideia. P-A-I-D-E-I-A is a transliteration of it. Pronounce that however you want. I went to the lexicon, and while we're there, just for a second, I want to encourage all of you, if you go to church, take your phone with you. When your pastor starts talking about a word or a Greek word, type in the word lexicon, L-E-X-I-C-O-N, and the verse that he's talking about. And it will bring up the words in the text, plus the Greek words, and it has numbers called a Strong's number that you can hit a hyperlink and go find the exact definition of that Greek word. And that's probably what he did as well. It used to, back in the day, take 6 or 7 books that you had to go to the library and get and find those, how the word was used and all that stuff. But it's pretty handy now. You can fact check your preacher on the spot. So it's used at least 6 times in there. And there's a word that sometimes gets translated chasten, mastigoi, yeah. But it's only used once. And the main text uses paideia. And paideia literally means, according to BibleHub.com, it means to instruct by training. So see the key words there, instruct by training. It eventually leads to the English word pedagogy, which, according to Merriam-Webster, is the art, science, and profession of teaching, the method and practice of teaching as defined by Oxford. It's very easy to use proof text to justify almost anything, including corporal punishment and even murder. But trauma-informed research and neuroscience continue to guide us towards disciplining, teaching, and walking alongside others instead of forcing compliance through violence. Forcing compliance through violence is not discipline. I don't see any way you can get to that conclusion other than just by the practical thing of, well, it gets everybody under control immediately, not to bring up the long-term violence. Seclusion, violence, and restraint are replaced by the more complex work of building relationships, regulating our nervous systems, and helping develop humans that can navigate the modern world. So that's kind of the shortest version of that I can do. What comes to my mind is, there's that passage in Deuteronomy, since we're in the Bible, that talks about, talk about these things while you walk along the way with your child, basically, right? That is we consider that teaching them, but that is also discipline. We're teaching them to navigate the world, to navigate their nervous systems too. We teach them how to regulate themselves. We teach them how to behave and things like that. But forcing them into compliance through violence is not the answer. And like JD said, there's plenty of studies that prove that. Right? Your thoughts?
Well, two thoughts. I mean, 2 thoughts with this. One, I do find it interesting that we would say, like, folks that conservative folks would lean in on saying, spank the kids, spank the kids, spank the kids, right? But once you're a grown-up adult, and maybe there's those out there, once you're an adult, you enjoy being spanked. And now they would say, no, this spanking is bad, but this spanking is good. And it's a weird connection that they're only really okay with spanking little kids. I don't know if that's the best math there, but there's some math to that. But I think ultimately, like what you're getting at, Karl, is that I think it's teaching them domination, or what it's like to be dominated, and it's teaching kids power dynamics, meaning that you're at the bottom, we're at the top, and this is how it works. It's the same in the church.
Violence is a means to an end.
It's a means to an immediate result, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we know from the studies that 90% of the kids comply, right? They go along. If it's severe, the IBLP and Independent Fundamentalist Baptist and the Institute for Basic Life Principles, those practices that you can go into. And a book, I want to recommend a book real quick. We're going to interview Tia Levins in about a week, and her book, which
it's called Dare to Discipline. Is what we're going to talk about today.
No, it's not Dare to Discipline. That's the
Bacon for the Savior.
That's the demon version.
The bizarro world version of this book, which is called
I still didn't remember the name of it through all that, but it's her story, Tia Levins, and so I'll think of it in a minute. I'll blurt it out at the wrong time. But
just scream it when we're not even talking about it anymore.
Really, really detailed account of her story and how that early influence she had with complying led her to a husband that couldn't lead, but yet was being demanded to control her, and made her call him Lord. She had to call him Lord, and things like that, and then sexual abuse and all the things that happened to her. Very good detail, and she's a great writer also. I would highly recommend Tia Levins and her, New York Times best-selling book, so you can find it.
It's called A Well-Trained Wife, I believe.
Well-Trained Wife, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Thank you, Jay.
That's what they pay me the big bucks for.
Yeah, and so, but if you're going to use biblical text, and if you use Hebrews 12, I want to really encourage you to look a little deeper into that verse and see what I saw, that discipline is teaching. JD's a teacher. My wife is an educator. They both know that, unfortunately or fortunately, what it comes down to is relationships. To help people grow into human beings, it takes a relationship, it takes a connection, it takes, and we've said this several times. It's not that the kid doesn't want to comply. It isn't that he doesn't know the rules. It's that he doesn't know how. And even at 60 years old, I'm still discovering those things that I don't know how to regulate myself as well as I'd like to. I don't know why I'm doing this and why I'm misbehaving. And it takes another person that can, through a book, through a testimony, bad word, through accounting of their history, through their memoirs, have, translating this stuff for me. And that in those relationships like we have, and we can talk about those things, and that's what leads to regulation, functioning, kindness, and all kinds of things. But, the problem we sometimes find in schools, at least what I've observed, is that we bring in trauma-informed ideas, but sometimes the teachers don't know how to regulate, don't understand how their brain's working, haven't done the work, and it's very hard or impossible for a dysregulated adult to regulate a dysregulated child. We've said that several times. Usually that's when we close the podcast. So.
Good night, everyone.
What's wrong with punishment?
Oh, no.
What's wrong with punishment?
I think it's the message it gives. I mean, to whoever you're punishing. I mean, that's the problem. I feel like a lot of times you are bad, and because you're bad, you're going to get this amount of pain. And I feel like if we just leave that kind of math out there, that's trauma fuel for kids.
Yeah.
You're bad, and because of it, you deserve to be beaten.
Right. Yeah. After all, God would ultimately punish you in hell and torture you forever, which I would never do to anybody, even my worst enemy.
or even the idea like, oh, I'm doing this because I love you, which is that's good abuse language too. I mean,
hurts me more than it hurts you, even though I'm doing this simply to give myself like a little bit of peace and quiet or something. It's really just a selfish like violation of your personal sovereignty.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. I think using the word punishment is tough because, like, I mean, sometimes we are deserving of punishment. I punish kids by talking sternly to them, pulling them outside, or talking to them, you know, in certain ways sometimes, or I will take away like privileges from the class or something, but like within reason, and I'll explain it to them. And but like, I don't know. So I don't think it's punishment. I think it's abusive punishment. I mean, that's just what that's hitting it, or verbal or physical.
What I hear you saying in that, JD, is you're really teaching them. You're not in a sense punishing them. You're saying, let me explain this to you. Let's regulate. Let's breathe. Let's calm down. And now let me explain this to you, and maybe you can make the connection by what I'm telling you. And I removed you from class, but it's the World Health Organization defines it as any punishment in which physical force is used and intended to cause some degree of pain or discomfort.
It defines what is that?
It's probably more than just physical too. I mean, or is that just
corporal, specifically dealing with corporal punishment?
Corporal punishment. Okay, I was going to say that's my point, but anyway, it's semantical anyway. Is all I'm saying. But as long as this is why I say we got to define our terms. But yeah, anything. But I don't. Again, I think it's not just corporal. I think it can be tons of different kinds of punishments that are physically, mentally, they're manipulative. I mean, it's all bad for people. We have lots of data to show that.
We are involved with a group called the Family Peace Initiative, doing some volunteer work with them, and they have a process for batterers. It's a batterers intervention program, and it's a real good, kind of shadow work kind of thing that works with most of the guys, and does some really good work with them. Instead of, I think we just want to ignore them. If we can classify it as sin, and all you need to do is repent. Well, you didn't do the work. You still didn't do the work to make this better, And in the case of IBLP type people, it's just, get stiffer and stiffer in our control and manipulation and controlling them. And it just does so much harm.
But it also feels like, and the one thing I actually like, we're talking about these independent Baptist folks, the one bit of grace I will extend in this situation, and it kind of extends back to you, Karl, mentioning like the Greek earlier. If you can imagine, especially like conservative folks like this, KJV only, like we just have this, our pastors probably aren't educated in seminary or otherwise, and so we just have the Bible is what it says, and then you lay on top of that, okay, the way they believe it is the way they're going to preach it down, is that God's angry at me, and so I have to be good, and then as a pastor, well then, hey guys, God's angry at you, and I have to make sure I'm tending you as a flock. So then, hey fathers, you guys you're under the same pressure, and so it's all of this pressure that we've created, and it's not real. It's just this ideological pressure cooker that we've created for folks that continues this cycle of abuse. It's just going to continue to repeat itself because kids grow up in it, they're taught the same way, and it just continues on and on again. And a lot of this is all, like you said, out of a bad translation and people that don't want to regulate, people that just want to repeat this because they're terrified of God or they're terrified of their church community.
Or they're looking for a simple solution.
Yeah, exactly. IBLP taught the blanket training. Basically take an infant and put it in the middle of the blanket. When it starts to crawl, see something, a butterfly, starts to crawl away, they hit that child with a glue stick. And then their punishment gets more severe after that. Corporal punishment, according to the World Health Organization, lists some things that corporal punishment does. First of all, it does direct physical harm. It physically hurts people, mental ill health, impaired cognitive and socio-emotional development, school dropout, lower academic and occupational success, poor moral internalization, and increased antisocial behavior, increased aggression in children, adult perpetuation, that's it, of
Mhm.
violent, antisocial, and criminal behavior, indirect physical harm due to overloaded biological systems,
Mm.
including developing cancer, alcohol-related problems, migraines, and so on. Increased acceptance and use of other forms of violence, damaged family relationships, and so on and so on. It's a lot of stuff. Our instinct for retribution is what I wrote, and our misunderstanding of justice undermines rational and more informed choices.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that in a lot of cultures. As I was going to say, with talking about working with those mostly men, that's the tough conversation that like a lot of people, even people who are like abolish prisons or what, radical people on some of this stuff, or basically like child independence, whatever. Anyway, it's hard to talk about like what do we do with the people that are doing bad shit in society. Because certainly what we're doing right now isn't working. Just like Stuart, you're talking about in the church, these cycles go down.
Yep.
Recidivism in United States prisons especially, but in a lot of countries around the world is fucking horrific. So it's not working. We're just getting more people hurt. But no one wants to have a serious conversation because especially you can do the thing that all politicians do, which is pull the Willie Horton ad et al. Of the most extreme case, and then scare everyone with it. And then, but even that person has to be rehabilitated, or we as a society have to just say, well, we're just going to kill him, which makes maybe not as bad as him, but it certainly doesn't make you that much better by just murdering a person because they did something horrible. But yeah, that's a real conversation that people are going to have to start having. And I think if we can at least start having that conversation, at least things with like kids, beating the shit out of your children will hopefully get easier. If it's like, well, we're having a conversation on the, prisoners thing. Okay, I think we can all agree that the kids, but I don't know. That stuff is really ingrained, and it's almost like a hazing thing, like in frats or like football teams and stuff like that, where it's like, well, it's the people who are like, well, I went through it and I'm fine. It's not. They're not saying like I went through it and it made me a better person. Like I got through it and I didn't fucking die, I guess. So like now I get to do it to someone else, and now it's my turn to inflict the fucking useless pain on someone else.
And that's intertwined with it.
It's probably different. It is probably different things for different people. There are people who are sadomasochists that probably just enjoy being the fuck out of a child. But it's in any case, whatever it is, it's not good and it doesn't work, and we need to fucking stop. And however we can get there is what we need to figure out next.
Yeah, and it's intertwined with the biblical message that you need to suffer. If you're going to grow spiritually. I'm just helping you.
I say we just start believing in purgatory then. Fucking like at least just let's put it off for this life. Please.
Yeah. The American School Counselor Association gave some better ways, maybe, some suggestions, implementing behavioral contracts to support self-regulation and accountability, establish clear and consistent expectations and logical consequences of trauma-informed practices do have consequences, very well defined, and it's not just what the dysregulated adult comes up with on the fly. Facilitated conferences with students, families, and staff to address, and there's some restorative practices that are really good, bringing all the people together that were involved in whatever happened and doing some restorative work there is really good. Pro-social behaviors through restorative practices, skill-based learning and meditation and conflict resolution, promoting emotional regulation and mindfulness practices to support student well-being, and connecting families with parenting programs that encourage positive reinforcement and effective discipline, which we already discovered is teaching, right? I think, our old practices get quick results. It also promote antisocial behavior and harm the students, and it's not good. This is my last thing. You guys can say whatever you want. We need to ask what is beneath their behavior. And when we help them discover it, they can integrate it and move forward because they've learned to meet their own needs and grow towards maturity. Ultimately, we don't naturally move out of trauma and dysfunction. Someone has to teach us. And that's back to Padilla, and it requires a relationship. And we've covered those things a lot. So that's what I have to say.
I love what you're saying, and you're right, but it also feels like an uphill battle, especially for its like existing systems, whether it be churches or schools or other things, where certain things, like you said earlier, get quicker results. And dealing with trauma, there's not an easy timeline, unlike, oh, when will they be fixed? When will they be fully regulated? When will they sit back down and their test scores go up? Because again, it's I think it's going back to, what do we really care about? And that's a hard thing in culture too, to where, you know, some people are just data driven and we want numbers and we want to push them to perform like little machines the way we want them to, and that's how we teach them. Or, I mean, do we treat them like humans? It's not this is that they're children. These are just like, these are all baby humans. They're just getting bigger just like we did. Do we treat them like they're in process, or do we treat them like we need to process them? And it's hard because bureaucracy and systems like to process people. They don't like people to process.
Takes a lot more work. That's for sure.
Yeah. But we're not just producing factory workers, you know, go work in a factory. We need to be focused on teaching and replicating human beings that have compassion and love and caring and kindness and things like that, and prioritize those things. Schools in our area have a problem prioritizing sports over education and sports over quiz bowls and things like that. It's about, you know, where you get your priorities. Is kindness, you know, a lot of you claim to be Christians. Are your primary goals kindness, love, respect, or are they just getting through the day so you go play games and go to church and talk about how bad the kid was at school and how evil he must be? He's got a demon in him or something, and do all that kind of stuff. What's important to you? Is it really the gift? Is it really human beings? Is it really the least of these? Let's see. You know, let's see how much money.
The answer is no. Look at the fucking fruits of the shit tree that they're growing. No, it's fucking not. It's not. So change it. But I mean, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of hope. I think it's the same thing we talked about before. Like, if you want to change those macro cultures, you have to work on the micro ones first, right? You got to go, gotta go in and change those cultures in those towns, in the cities, whatever, in the neighborhood, and then it'll hopefully grow from there. But the system, just like we were talking about the carceral system earlier, it's very rotten from the inside and needs a serious overhaul. But it's not going to happen just because we want it to.
We'd love to hear your thoughts out there. If you listen to this and you think we got it all wrong, or you have more to add, we'd certainly like to hear from you.
We also like hearing that we got it all right, solved the issue. Appreciate that as well.